Confident Eaters. Today we have a special guest with us, Christy. But before we go into that, her and I are actually teaching an upcoming masterclass together on how to stop emotional eating and manage your emotions in a healthy way. It's coming in 2 weeks from today on Thursday, July 25th at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. We'll have the link in the show notes to register. We're going to be going over the triggers from emotional eating, why it's important to stop running to food for comfort, a 3-step process to break free from eating your emotions, and how to actually process them in a healthy way, and what to do when you slip up. So you're not going to want to miss out on this special masterclass with us. So register below in the show notes. All right, Christy, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Yes. My name is Christy. I am a certified integrative nutrition health coach, and I have been coaching since 2018. So I've been in the space a little bit over 5 years, and I primarily help women nourish their bodies, heal their relationship with food, and just feel really healthy and confident in their skin.
Amazing. I'm so excited to have you on today. So, why don't you tell us about your story and how you got to where you are today now helping people with these things?
Yes, definitely. So I got into health coaching just through my own personal mental and physical transformation. Growing up, I really struggled with body image and self confidence and just never felt good enough in my skin. So, like most young teenagers, I decided to go on my first ever diet, the Special K diet. And for those of you who don't know, Special K diet is basically eating like 2 bowls of cereal a day plus a couple snacks. So, super restrictive, but I ended up losing a lot of weight in a very short amount of time. So, probably like 20 to 30 pounds in just a few months. And once I lost that weight, I felt like I was finally being seen by other people. My confidence skyrocketed. I started getting compliments. I just felt like people actually liked me. And that really confirmed the belief in my mind that being in a smaller body meant that I was more worthy and more lovable. And unfortunately, that led to just years of a horrible relationship with food in my body. So I developed a really restrictive relationship with food where some days I would only eat 700 calories. I started over exercising and it really just developed this fear of gaining weight. And that lasted all up until college when I met my husband, David. So when my husband and I met, he was kind of like a pivotal piece in my healing journey. For the first time, I felt like somebody really liked me for me and I didn't have to impress them. And that allowed me to kind of just ease up a little bit on my food rules and just obsession with my body. But unfortunately, I kind of, swung the pendulum in the opposite direction and, ended up gaining some weight. And that led to just yo-yo dieting. So that was the phase of hopping on one diet to lose the 10 pounds I gained, then gaining it back, and then emotional eating. And I kind of went from this very controlled, restrictive place of, my body never changing to, oh crap, now I let my body change. And now how do I get back there? So, through all of this, because I was not properly nourishing my body well, I developed a lot of health issues. So, I had gut issues, hormonal issues, I had cystic acne. And the worst part about all of it was that I developed really bad anxiety and panic attacks. So, as I was healing my relationship with food, my anxiety and mental health was still really just taking a huge toll on my life. I was in therapy for it, I was on antidepressants. And no matter what I would try, I just felt like it was something that was gonna be like a part of my story forever. And I remember going to the doctor and they kind of complaining about how I was feeling and they suggested, you can go up on your medication. And I was like, I really don't want to do that. So I started to actually do my own research. And that was when I stumbled upon the world of holistic health. So I was Googling how to naturally overcome anxiety. And one of the first articles that popped up was nutrition. And for the first time, I realized that, oh, the food we eat can actually impact our mental health. And I zoomed out and I looked back at all of the years of restricting and chronic dieting and emotional eating and eating these low calorie processed foods, and I realized that my diet was really playing a huge role in my anxiety. So I went on a huge healing journey to just transform my diet over to whole nutrient dense foods. I stopped fearing fat. I started eating more protein. I got some blood work done and discovered that I was deficient in certain vitamins and minerals, started supplementing with those. and just felt so much better. And that really encouraged me to look at other areas of my life. I continued to do a lot of the mindset work and just rewire all of the negative limiting beliefs I had about myself, started to heal my body image, started to look at my relationships with others, my environment, and all of that together just over time completely made me feel just healthier and confident in my skin to the point where I no longer have anxiety and panic attacks. I have a healthy relationship with food, and my health journey is no longer stressful. So, all of that just inspired me to go back to school to help other women struggling with similar things. And that is kind of how I got into the coaching space.
Mhm. One thing that I love that you mentioned in the beginning was how you did the Special K diets, and I think it's so clear to see when you look back on how these things, 1, like, don't really work, but 2, are just companies trying to profit off of us, because, of course, Special K is gonna promote that their cereal can help you lose weight if that means people are gonna start eating it 4 or 5 times a day, and I think it's really important to question whenever we're changing our eating habits or we're taking nutritional advice to see where it's coming from and if that person actually cares about our health and our well-being, or if they're just trying to make money off of us, like a big company, a diet company, all of these pre-made meal plans. It's like, sure, they might have some marginal benefit, but ultimately it's really hard for people to make money off of people trusting themselves and listening to their body. So we have to take a different route than these traditional diet companies. So you mentioned you struggled with anxiety, you were on meds for it. I'm curious, were you ever scared to get off of those anxiety medications? And I just know I have some clients who are currently on it, and it's kind of scary to take the natural route because they're not sure if it will work. It's a little bit more unknown. You don't really have a doctor for it. You have to go explore out on your own or work with a coach. So, what was that experience like for you getting off of those?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was terrified because I was on them for, over 5 years, but for me, they weren't working anymore.
Mm.
So, I was to the point where I was on Zoloft and I was still experiencing really bad anxiety, and I was just thinking about my future, and I think I was even thinking about children at that time, even though I wasn't even married, and I was kinda like, "Oh, like, I don't know if I wanna be taking medications long term. There has to be another route. Like, this isn't really working for me anyhow, so let me see if I can figure this out on my own." So,
Mhm.
for me, it was scary, but at the same time, I was already feeling so horrible that I was
Mhm.
like, "How worse can it really get?" So, I mean, I worked with my doctor to taper off my dose, and I was young, I was in college, and tapering down anxiety medication can, like, mess with you mentally a little bit. Your emotions are a little all over the place depending on how your body responds, and I started feeling even worse, so I decided to just cut them cold turkey, which I would not recommend to anybody else, but it kind of allowed me to, like, hit rock bottom and just motivated me so much to figure it out, and that's what really drove the researching on nutrition, the supplements, all of the mindset work I could do, really learning about anxiety and what it was, because I think a lot of the times the fear of anxiety fuels more anxiety because mine was
Mhm.
very physical, not just mental. So, yeah, I totally understand the fear of trying to go a natural way when all you know is the way you've been going, but I just wanna encourage you. I've had a lot of clients, obviously I can't give, like, medical advice, but, like, if it's okay with your doctor, like, there are other solutions to manage your mental health.
Mhm. I was curious if it was Zoloft. I was actually on Zoloft too from the ages of like 8 to 18. So I was really young. I got put on it right after my parents got divorced. So I had like a lot of anxiety around that just as a child. And I don't think I knew how to handle it in a productive way, just throwing lots of tantrums, like very hard on my parents and hard on me. So I was on it for 10 years when I was younger. And I remember too thinking, my reason was I just didn't wanna be on it for the rest of my life. I wanted to figure out how to manage it naturally and how to learn the skills of coping with anxiety versus just taking a pill that was, like, zoning it down every day. And I think this has a lot of connection with people who maybe have been thinking about doing Ozempic or some other weight loss drug where it's like, "Yeah, maybe that might work, but, like, that's not really something I wanna do forever and ever for the rest of my life." Like, if you need it as a temporary solution, I do know it can be helpful for people at times, but sometimes we want to go a leap further and think, okay, what's going on below this and beneath this? And what can we do to actually change this in a way that is sustainable and healthy for me long term?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I have a client was on anxiety medication and was able to get off of it during our program. But she was the same way. She went on it when she was younger, like during a very stressful period in her life. And then she just kind of like never got off of it because that's just once you're on something, like unless you bring it up to your doctor, usually you just keep taking it. It's the same thing with like
Mhm.
birth control for a lot of people. But understanding that, okay, some of these medications, like especially when it comes to mental health, like there's nothing wrong with taking medication and like there's definitely a time and place for it and
Mhm.
medication in general. But knowing that sometimes they can just be band-aid solutions and there are a lot of things you can do to heal naturally.
Right, there's lots of options within that
Mhm.
toolbox that you can use.
Yes.
So, as you went from someone who was this yo-yo dieter to someone who had healed their relationship with food and really found this holistic approach, how did you do that in a way that felt good to you and not super diety? Because sometimes people are scared. Well, what if this is restrictive? What if I'm being too healthy and I'm not giving myself enough permission for these other foods? So, how did you manage being able to make that switch?
Yes. I think it's definitely a dance at first. Like healing is messy. It's not this overnight thing where you're just like, okay, cool. Yeah, I healed my relationship with food. So for me, it was just doing a lot of heart checks, asking myself, what are my intentions behind my decisions and are they coming from a healthy place? So I had to become just super aware of the thoughts I was thinking as well as how I was feeling. And I always believe that our health journey should feel good. Like getting healthier and nourishing our bodies and moving our bodies should be a form of taking care of ourselves versus a form of punishment. So for me, if I started to notice old thought patterns coming up, like, oh, I can't have that piece of dessert or I'll gain weight, or oh, like I want that drink, but oh, it has so many calories. Like if there was this shame or negative self talk or just this stress and anxiety surrounding it, it was kind of a flashlight shining down that I needed to kind of explore like why are all those emotions coming up? Or if I felt like I had to go to the gym or eat something healthy out of fear that if I didn't do that I would gain weight, then that was kind of when I knew like okay, I still have some work to do. So for me like getting to the other side, it was really just like it was a gradual shift of just awareness and working through those thoughts until finally all of the mental drama was gone. And now I just eat healthy because, like, literally, I'm so excited to eat my salad or because I know it makes me feel good or I'm looking forward to my workout. So it's not black and white. It's kind of like being okay with that gray area of incorporating all things in balance.
Right, right. I think a lot of times it's going deeper with our reasons too, where of course we can want to look good and we can want to lose weight, but we need something that's a little bit more meaningful than that if we want to stick to it long term. So, like you said, the way you feel when you're eating this way and how it really nourishes you and energizes you, and really looking at it as a thing that you're doing for self love because you deeply care for yourself and you appreciate yourself and you want to make sure that you're well nourished and well fed is a very different place to be making these decisions from versus I need to punish myself with a new diet so I can lose weight and finally be worthy. It's a very different energy that we're making these decisions from.
Yes, exactly.
So, how do you manage if you want a treat or something that's maybe a little bit unhealthier, quote unquote? How do you manage dealing with that
Yeah.
nowadays?
I guess I just let myself have it guilt free. I mean, fortunately, I genuinely love eating healthy. So I know for everyone's a little bit different. Some people are like, that's more of a challenge getting to that and they crave a lot of like processed foods or unhealthy foods. But that doesn't mean just because I eat healthy and nutritious foods that I can't have a chocolate martini or have a piece of pizza. So if I'm genuinely wanting something that is quote unquote not as nutritious, I just let myself have it in moderation and know that it's just food at the end of the day. When I was really struggling with my fear of gaining weight or just my body image, that was like my go-to motto that it's just food. It's just energy for my body. Just because this has a little bit less vitamins or minerals or is more calories, like in the grand scheme of things, like it does not matter. And I think like putting that into perspective and realizing that like yes, food is nourishment, but it's also enjoyment and it's almost also pleasure can really help you have like more of a well-rounded perspective on it.
Yeah, I love that. If people are struggling with their health, what are some of the things that you work with them on or teach them that you think might be helpful to hear for the listeners today?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it comes down to like what areas of health you're struggling with. First, I would kind of want to know that. But a lot of how we feel as a result of our habits. So I like to take a holistic approach. So it's our habits when it comes to, are we taking time for self care? How are we spending our days? Our habits when it comes to drinking water, moving our body. And then also there's the nutritional piece, like what are the foods we're feeding our body? Are we getting enough nourishment? Are we getting enough protein? Are our meals supporting balanced blood sugar so we actually feel good? Because there's a huge physical component to that. But then also our mindset. Are the thoughts we're thinking helping us to feel positive and hopeful and encouraged, or are they like tearing us down and making us feel all the shame, guilt, and anxiety? So I think it's kind of taking an inventory of your life. That's what I like to do with clients and kind of see like, okay, where are we starting? What's working? What's not working? And then how do we just take baby steps in those areas to start feeling better?
Right. And we really do need to take this bigger picture look at how our health is working out because it's really how we eat is only one component. And we tend to zoom in on that of how can I eat better? How can I eat cleaner? How can I do better in this one area? And we forget that health is so many other factors. So, what would you say? A lot of people who are working with me, they maybe are working on their relationship with food. So, it's a little bit more sensitive at the time. We got to be careful like about the changes we make. So, what are some changes that people could make in their life that have nothing to do with food and but could still improve their life?
Yes, that's a great question. Because I think, yeah, sometimes when you are on a health journey or you are trying to heal your relationship with food, like it's almost like the focus is so much on food and so much on bodies. And like, okay, your Instagram is now covered with coaches just talking about health and fitness. And that can sometimes even make it harder to get to a healthier place. So I would say the number one thing I think to improve your health is to really work on the connections and relationships in your life. I think that is so underrated, and like, especially going through COVID and lockdown and all the things, people started to realize how much isolation can really impact your mental and physical health. And I just think making sure that you have people in your life who are supportive, who bring you joy, things you can do, people you can do fun things with, make memories, is a very simple way to just feel healthier all around.
Mhm. I love that you mentioned that one because I don't think a lot of people would bring that one up first. A lot of people think, "Oh, we just hang out with our friends. That's something fun we do," but that's not really something that most people would consider, "Oh, I'm working on my health right now." Right? And how would your life change if you started thinking about every time I build these social bonds and these deep connections, I'm becoming a healthier person, right? And of course, we're happier too, which is then makes us healthier. But I think that is such an important one and just all the research on isolation and loneliness and how much it can impact us. And I'm sure all of us have had experiences at some point in our life where we have felt alone in something. And I can see that's the times really where I felt alone and isolated that my eating has been the worst is because I don't feel like I have anyone I can lean on for support. And then we just kind of go inwards and we don't really do anything different. So I love, love, love that you mentioned that. And I think it does take a leap too. It sounds like fun and easy, but sometimes making friends, reaching out to people can be difficult, especially in our busy lives. But I think that reframe of like, this is something that's healthy for me. This is something that's really important in my life can help people take that step towards it.
Yes, exactly. Because I mean, you could be eating the cleanest diet in the world. You could have six-pack abs, like, but that doesn't mean you're healthy at all. Like, some of the that I like to think like happiness is healthy, and fueling those relationships, in my experience, has been one of the best ways to actually like feel good.
I'm quoting that the happiness is the healthiest. I love
Yes.
that. That's I think what we all need to focus on more. So one thing we've kind of talked about is this mindset piece that's so important to look at how we're thinking and feeling in our health journey. But when we're talking about mindset, like what does that even mean to have a good mindset in looking at your mindset versus not looking at your mindset?
Yeah. This is a great question. I feel like a lot of people, especially like if you're new to mindset work, you might be like you said, like, what the heck is that? How do I work on my mindset? And our mindset is really the beliefs we're having and the thoughts we're thinking. It's pretty simple, yet our minds are very complex at the same time. So I think a lot of people just go through life on autopilot, just thinking the same things or just believing the same lies, and just they never stop to question, are these thoughts I want to be thinking, are these thoughts actually true, and our thoughts are so powerful because our thoughts are really at the root of everything. They impact our feelings, and our feelings usually drive our actions. And over time, our actions create our results. So, really, it's like when you think about a tree, like your thoughts and beliefs are the first thing you have to tackle if you want to change any of your habits or behaviors. So, it's really identifying, like, okay, what's going on in my mind? Like, observing, bringing awareness to your thoughts, and then deciding, are these thoughts I want to believe? And if not, changing them.
Right? Questioning them, getting curious. That's something that not a lot of people do. And I can tell you, if you're someone who starts questioning their thoughts and choosing something else instead, you're going to be way ahead out of anyone else in your friend group, your family, because most people just walk around believing their thoughts all day. And I like to call it playing Tinder with your thoughts, where we can like swipe left on the ones we don't want and swipe right on the ones we do want. Really, we can just choose in any instant to believe things that are serving us and let go of things that aren't. But it isn't until we start to question those things that we even have the awareness of what's in our brain.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, when it comes to, like, bringing awareness to your thoughts, like, sometimes because they happen on autopilot, it can be hard to catch them, and that's where doing different activities like journaling or having this is why I love coaching. When somebody asks you questions, it can really make you ponder, like, "Oh, why do I believe that?" Or, "I didn't even know I believed that." So I think utilizing those tools, reading books, like all of those things can really help with your mindset. Sometimes it's hard to just kind of like sit down and be like, okay, let me change my mindset.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's why I think having a coach is so important too. Like you and I, we do this work in and out all day long, right? This is like our specialty. And a lot of people don't think I need help for my mindset. They normally think, well, I'm doing something I don't want to be doing. But what people don't realize is when you work on the mindset, that's how you change to do what you want to do or not do what you don't want to do. That's like the underlying cause. That's the foundation that we need to work on first.
Yeah, exactly. And I was even on a client call earlier this morning, and we were focusing on business, so not health, because I do some mentorship there. But she kind of was talking about this limiting belief she had. And it was definitely a limiting belief, but like from an outsider's perspective and knowing her as a client, I was able to ask more questions because I knew there was more to it. And without that outside observation, she might not have ever actually like unpacked all of the layers to get to what was actually at the root of why she was feeling and thinking the way she was. So I think
Mhm.
sometimes we do need someone to kind of help us dig a little bit deeper because sometimes we might say like, "Oh, I just trying to think of an example off the fly, but I just hate the gym because I don't like working out or feeling my muscles get sore." Like that could be a reason, but it's likely there's probably a lot of other deep-seated beliefs you have that might be causing drama with the gym or
Mhm.
your relationship with food or something.
Right, right. So speaking of it, people want to find you and work with you. How can they do that?
Yes, so I am at ChristyMarieRomano.com, and that is also my Instagram. My podcast is the Holistic Health Makeover Show. And yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram. I have my website with all of my services there. I offer one on one coaching as well as nutrition plans. And then my podcast, we talk about all things healthy living.
So I will have all those links in the show notes. And then don't forget, me and Christy are also having our masterclass coming up on July 25th at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So you can register for that for free in the show notes as well. And we would love to see you there. And thanks for coming on today, Christy.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.